Hello and welcome to GB News Originals. I'm Cameron Walker, the channel's royal correspondent. This is Inside the Palace and I'm joined by gbnews.com's deputy royal editor, Dorothy Reddin. Hello Dorothy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Cameron?
Yeah, very well, thank you. I've been riveted by watching all 8 episodes of Meghan's new season 2 of With Love Meghan. We're going to be talking about that, but also, of course, going to be talking about this not quite a bombshell interview, but an unexpected interview she has given to Bloomberg Originals, which, in fact, let's start with that, because I was incredibly surprised that she's talking again about her time subtly as a working member of the royal family by effectively suggesting that she wasn't given the freedoms perhaps that she now enjoys in California. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I found it interesting that this launched on the same day as her Netflix show. I would have thought she'd want all the attention on the show that she clearly worked quite hard on, but this interview dropped with Emily Chang, who I have to say actually was one of the best interviewers with Meghan that I have seen in several years. She actually did hold the Duchess of Sussex to account several times. She brought up the fact that her show With Love Meghan, divided audiences. It was polarizing. It got mixed reviews. She brought up several things that you could tell Meghan was not quite happy with. She said, some people believe you're glamorizing being a trad wife. And you could see Meghan was like, really? Kind of thing. She was not. This wasn't a situation where she was spoken to by a friend. This was a journalist who was actually asking tougher questions than I think the Duchess of Sussex was used to. But yes, there were moments where Meghan was asked about her time in the royal family, and she would say, I didn't have a voice and I had to wear nude pantyhose, which for our British audience might not know what that means. That means tights. She's claiming that she was forced to wear nude tights during her time as a member of the royal family, and she's still complaining about this 5 years later. And it is just like, it's been 5 years, Meghan.
Just let it go. For the sake of your public relations. About this. What really frustrates me to some sense is that Meghan, to be fair to her, over the last couple of years has solely been focusing on her business strategy, on her Netflix show With Love Meghan, very glossy, very glamorous cooking show. It looks incredible. She looks fantastic. The products is clearly something she's passionate about. Obviously, they're polarizing, but they're lifestyle products. But yet again, she's talking about something which has arguably really affected the opinion of Meghan Markle from, the vast majority of the population. So the YouGov polls show she is the least popular member of the royal family in the UK, apart from Prince Andrew. And one of the main reasons for that is because that she was talking and complaining, some would say, about being a working member of the royal family, which has given her, arguably, this platform and this big Netflix deal.
I thought one point that was really interesting as well is she said, sometimes when you're getting all of this negative attention, sometimes it's just best not to say anything. And it's like, you've said a lot, Meghan. You've said a lot. So is your husband, and contrast that with the Princess of Wales and the Prince of Wales, who have said nothing about this royal rift, this royal feud over the past 5, 6, 7 years, however long it's been. It's don't gaslight us. Like we know what's going on here. It was an interesting watch, and I have to say I was quite enjoying over the course of 2024. Meghan wasn't really speaking about the royals as much. She was focusing way more on her upcoming business and her shows and stuff. And I really hope she doesn't go back into that avenue of constantly criticizing the royal family and bringing up little things that she knows are going to get the headlines about her. She's a smart woman. She knows what this is going to do. She knows that just by, mentioning, 5 years ago, I wasn't allowed to do this. She knows that that's more interesting and is going to get a better headline than.
Another royal storm brews, this time sparked by Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, with what critics are calling yet another unprovoked dig at the royal family. The tension between the Sussexes and the monarchy shows no signs of cooling, and this latest remark has reignited a firestorm of commentary across media and public opinion alike. Meghan Markle has never shied away from sharing her side of the story. From the Oprah interview to the Netflix docuseries, her words have carried weight but also sparked backlash. In this latest instance, Meghan's comments are being framed as unnecessary and provocative, especially at a time when the royal family seeks to project stability. Critics argue Meghan's statement crosses the line between sharing her truth and intentionally fueling division. The phrase yet again rings loudly, as commentators accuse the Duchess of falling into a pattern, reopening old wounds rather than letting them heal. It's a strategy that garners attention, but at what cost? Reaction has been swift and divided. Supporters defend Meghan, insisting she has every right to speak her mind and challenge royal narratives. Detractors, however, see this as another calculated move, a dig designed to keep the spotlight firmly on the Sussexes while painting the monarchy as cold and unyielding. The media, predictably, has seized on the drama, amplifying the conflict. Each new controversy adds to the ongoing saga of Harry and Meghan's relationship with the monarchy. For some, the Duchess symbolizes courage against outdated traditions. For others, she embodies unnecessary conflict and opportunism. This unprovoked comment, whether intended as a critique or simply an offhand remark, underscores how fragile royal relations remain. One thing is certain: Meghan's latest words have reignited tensions that many hoped were fading. The royal family's response, if any, will be closely scrutinized. And as long as these remarks continue to surface, the drama surrounding the Sussexes will remain a headline fixture, much to the fascination and frustration of the world.
What jam or what honey she's selling with as ever, or which celebrity guest she's got on with Love Meghan to cook with, because it's what the people want to know about. Unfortunately, that's the problem that Meghan and Harry have got themselves in since stepping back from their positions as working royals. Is in order to make money, people want to know about the royals, you know? And so I do, in a way, I do.
And in that sense, on Good Afternoon Britain today, on GB News, give it a watch if you haven't, we had the royal commentator Richard Fitzwilliams on, and he suggested that the reason why Meghan has brought up that kind of thing again, albeit in a subtle way, is because she needs that link still to be a member of the working member of the royal family, or at least a former working member of the royal family. She needs that royal link in order to keep relevant. Yeah,
I know, and so I do feel quite sorry for them, because I remember when the announcement came back in January 2020, I remember where I was out for drinks with my friends, and I remember reading the statement and feeling at the time, okay, fair enough, if you want to step back, like, I'll support you, you're grown adults, you can do whatever you want. But I think over the past 5 years, we're just sick and tired of hearing the same content rehashed again and again and again, and whether it's an autobiography or a podcast or a Netflix show, it is very much. And I guess Meghan has been trying to get out of that vein by doing the cooking shows and by releasing children's books and doing podcast interviews with business leaders, and she is trying, but people just aren't as interested, and it must really blow for her. And so I do feel sorry for her in that regard, but you know, they made their decision 5 years ago, and that's what they're stuck with.
And I think she is trying, because also what I've noticed is she stayed out of all of what I would describe as Prince Harry's drama. You know, she hasn't publicly given support to her husband over his security disagreements with the Home Office. She hasn't given public support to her husband when he stood back from his charity Centre Barley. So it's like she's trying to stay out of drama, but then she's obviously just given this interview which is reigniting some drama. Do you think maybe she just misspoke and she was caught off guard a bit by the questioning from the Bloomberg journalist?
I don't think Meghan is capable of misspeaking. I think everything is quite planned. I don't think she goes into any interview without meticulously preparing for it, because, like I said, I think she's a lot more intelligent than I think, not you or I, but than a lot of other people give her credit for. And I think she goes into these things very, very prepared, and she knows what's going to get headlines. I personally don't believe her when she says that she doesn't read any of the negative press about her. I think or maybe she doesn't, but she definitely has a team of people that do that for her. I think she's very, very on top of things. And I just think it's unnecessary. Why are you complaining about wearing nude tights? I mean, there's people in much worse situations all over the world, like in a cost of living crisis, you know, just it's really not the end of the world. And actually, the journalist Victoria Arbiter tweeted or posted on X, earlier today, saying actually it was a way to honour Queen Elizabeth II because she believed it was a sign of modesty and a sign of respect to wear nude tights, and that's what she chose. And so that's why Camilla, when she was the Duchess of Cornwall, and why Catherine, as the Princess of Wales, would always wear nude tights in her presence. So it's just, if everywhere you go, you have a dress code. We have dress codes at work, wherever you go. So I just think, on your days off, you can wear whatever colour tights you want, Meghan. But when you're around the Queen, just wear the colour you're told to. I don't see a problem.
But Meghan obviously wants to be her own boss, and fair enough to her.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the actual show now with Love Meghan Season 2. She clearly is passionate for it. It's something she did before she met Prince Harry with the TIG, her blog. Lifestyle and food and wine, she loves. And I think that I think is authentic. I think she genuinely does have a passion for it. Of course, we already know it's not filmed in her own kitchen, but although she doesn't hide the fact that it's not filmed in her own kitchen. What do you think some of the standout moments were? Because she mentioned that she was not well, didn't she, when she had to be away from her children for just under 3 weeks?
Yes, so she said the longest she'd ever spent apart from Archie and Lilibet was 3 weeks. And I think, you and I sort of put together that it was definitely that period when herself and Prince Harry had come to the UK for varying engagements. I think the Well Child Awards was one of them, and a few other engagements. Mm-hmm. And sadly, Queen Elizabeth II passed away during that time period. So Harry and Meghan ended up staying in the UK longer than expected, obviously to attend the funeral and to observe the period of mourning, and then flew back to the US. So that was not a planned time away from her children. So I can understand why that time period would make you feel quite unwell. I think Lilibet was very young at the time. She was probably just maybe 1 year old at the time. So that must have been quite difficult and unplanned. I believe they were being looked after by Doria Ragland, Meghan's mother. So I thought that was quite an interesting thing to admit, and it probably was quite a hard period. That was the first time that Meghan, Harry, William and Catherine all reunited as the famous Fab Four and did the last time as
well, from what I would suggest or understand.
They did the walkabout around Windsor Castle, and you could tell on Meghan's face at the time she looked quite nervous to greet the crowds at Windsor Castle because it was post Oprah and various things that they'd said about their time as working royals. So it must have been quite a difficult time.
But there was quite a lovely moment actually from Prince William, despite the Oprah interview, where Meghan, I think Harry, Catherine and William were stood one side of a car, and Meghan was kind of hovering awkwardly and looking a bit out of place the other side of a car as they were deciding which side of the road to go and greet crowds on. And it was William actually that asked Meghan, invited Meghan to come over to join them there and, kind of interact with her a little bit. So it seems quite polite, and despite their differences, but I think perhaps Spare may have severed any little tie they had left.
In digital journalism, we always like to call that an olive branch. Prince William presented an olive branch to Meghan to have her. I do remember that, and so that was a standout moment from the show. I also quite liked Tan France, who a lot of people know as the fashion expert on the Netflix series Queer Eye. He was on the show. Great show. Yeah, a great show. They were cooking together in the kitchen, and what was interesting is that Tan France didn't ask the question. Meghan kind of just gave the information away herself, which I thought was interesting. She said the thing she misses most about the UK was Magic FM, which I thought was just so bizarre. And then Tan France actually said, that's a bit of a grandma station.
I think Tan France was actually really laying into Meghan, but Meghan kept laughing it off because as well as saying it's a grandma station, he asked what these colourful things she was putting in whatever dish it was, and Meghan said, oh, it was my flour sprinkles. I love my flour sprinkles, something she sells, of course, on her As Ever brand. And I'm going to swear here, so hopefully you can cut it out if I'm not allowed to use it, producer. But he was like, that is the gayest shit I have ever seen. And Meghan laughed it off, and I thought it was actually quite a jibe from Tan France towards Meghan, even if it wasn't a jokey way.
I think it was quite refreshing probably for a British audience to see a Brit in that environment, because I think the show is definitely marketed towards those in California. It's such a Montecito-esque show where they're all super wealthy. and that just, you can tell by the lifestyles that they live. It's very relaxed. It's not the life you and I live, unfortunately.
No, I wish.
And I wish, I know, but just seeing a Brit in that setting was actually quite refreshing. So for that reason, I'd probably say I preferred season 2 over season 1. I think there weren't, as far as I could tell, just through binging it this morning, there weren't any major jabs at the royal family. But then, of course, the interview with Bloomberg also aired today. So it's like Meghan didn't do major jabs at the royal family in one thing, but then in another publication she did. So yeah, it's interesting. I don't quite understand the logic there. I don't really quite understand why she chose to do it that way.
Well, it makes me wonder how much...
Yeah, those were my 2 favourite moments from the show.
Yeah, it makes me wonder how much say Meghan and her PR team had over when that interview aired. It may well have just been Bloomberg's decision to put it out this day to coincide with the launch of As Ever. With Love Meghan. Guess we'll wait and see if there's any more details coming out on that one. And of course, we had, as well as you say, it was refreshing to have a Brit in the kitchen. I think it was also very refreshing to have the Michelin star chef who cooks for Harry and Meghan on their wedding day there, cooking a very, very complicated halibut. And I don't want to try it because I can't descale a fish to save my life. But there was lots of unseen photographs of the wedding, the wedding reception, and of course, Prince Harry, unseen photographs of him as well, which I thought was quite nice to see. Again, it's that link to the royal family. Yes.
What was quite interesting as well is they, in the first series and this series as well, and their original Harry and Meghan docuseries on Netflix, they did show these unseen pictures from the wedding. But what's interesting is you don't see any members of the royal family in any of these photographs. It's like, do you know what I mean? They were all taken at the after party, but you never see them. So I just do find it interesting that they really are cherry picking the pictures and the people that they're still in contact with. And Meghan actually addressed something similar to this in her interview with Emily Chang. She was asked about Archie and Lilibet and are they fulfilled with the family around them? And I thought, is she hinting at the fact that obviously the royal family they're not in contact with, but also Meghan's father, Thomas Markle, who she hasn't spoken to in several years. And Meghan said something, I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember exactly, but she said, oh, they'll live a very fulfilled life and it will in many ways replicate the choices that me and their father have made. And it was like, okay, so they've got the family around them that you're choosing for them. Do you know what I mean? It's like they also have other family members who they have a right to know, so it was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, their uncle will be the king one day. Their grandfather is actually the king. So it's sad, I think, really. Anyway, we've got to leave it there. Dot, thank you very much for joining me. If you have liked this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe. This has been Cameron Walker for GB News Originals.